All right, we have a situation on Bitcoin. Some YouTubers are saying it's an emergency. I wouldn't say it's an emergency, it's just a situation. The situation is that Bitcoin has broken down through this trend line, which it has kept since I think the beginning of the year. This is the upward trend line. And we've broken this trend line down, but I wouldn't panic at this stage yet. So first of all, we've only broken down for 1 day. The second thing is that this breakdown doesn't validate the thesis that we're in a bull market. In fact, there's still many hurdles that Bitcoin has to get through before it invalidates the thesis. The first hurdle is I would watch this 200-week moving average. And I think we've still got quite a way to go before we get this 200-week moving average. I think the price we're looking at there is about 29,300, somewhere around there. And if this is broken, then the next level that I'm going to be looking at is I'm going to be looking at this level over here and see if we print a higher low or a lower low before I jump to any conclusions. And before I say that we have an emergency and everyone must start to panic. So I don't think we're at panic stations yet. It does feel to me like Bitcoin's starting to follow the stock markets. And if I look at where the stock markets are, that is the NASDQ. You can see that the NASDQ broke through its trend line and is starting to trend a little bit down. And you remember that I said to you guys, Bitcoin wasn't correlated to the NASDQ on the way up. But that doesn't mean that the correlation's gone, because as soon as the market starts going down, that is when the correlation is going to come back. And that's what I said to you. And it's starting to look like that. So now we're in a situation where Bitcoin has broken that $29,000 range. We're in a situation where it's coming down. We're in a situation where alts, I mean, they're starting to look quite cheap, or some of them are starting to look quite cheap. And the question is, should we be buying the dip or should we wait? Because there's going to be more blood on the horizon. That's what I want to talk about today, because there's a lot of talk about recessions. There's talk about China. There's talk about market crashes. There's even talk about $12,000 Bitcoin again today. We're going to look at all of those things. But the talk about $12,000 Bitcoin isn't the only talk about Bitcoin. I heard something else, and I want you to tell me whether you think that this could actually be real. So let me go here and show you this. So there we go.
I always like hearing your price targets because you are so fearless. Where are you on Bitcoin by the end of next year, let's say?
Well, if the spot Bitcoin gets approved,
yeah,
I think the demand will be greater than the daily supply of Bitcoin. And so the clearing price, this is done by 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗓, who's our crypto digital strategist, is over 150,000. It could even be like 180,000.
But that's only if the spot, only if the ETF.
So if the spot Bitcoin ETF is approved, he's saying that Bitcoin can get to 150,000 and maybe $180,000, and he's expecting the spot ETF to be approved sometime early next year. That means that we could have upside from where we are today, which is 29,000, all the way up to 150,000 in 6 or 7 months. So the question is that realistic? And I've got the math to show you what would happen if we actually got a Bitcoin ETF. A lot of people have been talking about an ETF. A lot of people have been saying that the ETF is the biggest news ever. Is this true? I've got the data for you. I've actually got the math to show you what would happen if we got a Bitcoin ETF. So listen, we've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about markets. We're going to talk about China. We're going to talk about Tommy Lee's prediction. We're going to talk about Shibarium. Was their launch actually a flop? Is there money stuck in the bridge? We're going to talk about Ripple. We're going to talk about Rollbit. We've got a lot to talk about today. So let's get the show on the road. Okay. What happened there, Josh? Why did you destroy my intro? You cut my intro short. I don't know what's going on here. I must show you guys something super cool that I got. Okay, so who wants a ByBit moon pillow? Okay, now I know you're laughing. So let me actually show you how it works. Let me show you what it is and how it works. This is what you call an unboxing. Okay, so I'm going to unbox this. Okay, so here's the box. It's actually a real pillow, you see? It's a real pillow, and inside the pillow is a vibrator. Not that kind of vibrator, you know what I mean? Okay, so it's a pillow with a vibration mechanism inside. So you go to bed and you sleep and you link it to your alerts on ByBit when you're going to get liquidated. And then it buzzes if you're going to get liquidated, so it wakes you up. So listen, if you want a pillow like this, a moon pillow, it's real. Look at the size of this pillow. It's actually quite a nice pillow as well. If you want one of these pillows, let me know. Maybe by the end of the show, I'll give a few of these pillows away. This is amazing. We got a power cut here in South Africa, so I'm literally not seeing anything that's going on here. Are we live? Okay, amazing. All right, so we've got a big show today. Let's get this show on the road. I don't see anything. So James, if you could switch on my lights and everything else. Okay, James is helping us. He's switching on the lights. In the meantime, let me play you guys a song.
Get the fuck out of bed, bitch, go. Get up, and get the guy go. Time to wake up, bitch, get up. Get up, get up.
We're back. We had a power issue in this country. We have a power cuts, and so we had a power cut. Now the power's back on, so we're actually here. All right, so listen, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to our channel. If this is not your first time here, all I'm asking you to do is smash the like button, like the content. Let's obliterate like button. Let's let YouTube know that we're bringing you guys amazing content today. We've got an amazing show. Shibarium, Bitcoin to 150,000. What else have we got today? We've got ETF news for you. We've got Tommy Lee. We got Ripple response. We've got a whole lot of stuff. And we've got a guest today. We've got Umar Ashraf. And I've been watching Umar's Ashraf stuff. And he is really one of my favorite people on markets. And he talks about a good game. Let's talk to him about whether the markets are going to continue to go up, whether we can expect more blood, etc., etc. Also, just quickly, before we get into the meat and potatoes, we are doing extremely well, I think, in the ByBit trading competition. James, I see that. Is the share screen not working? There we go. Okay, so we're doing extremely well in the ByBit competition. Our squad right now. James, what is happening?
You gotta refresh it because everything went off.
Okay, hold on. And now Umar's on the screen.
And then just select that. The one next to it.
Okay, why is that camera? Okay, there we go. Now can you guys see me? All right, so we're back here. Sorry, we have power. We have electricity cuts in this country, and when the electricity goes off, it just it just creates mayhem here. So we are in the ByBit trading competition, we are number 12. So we've been moving up the ranks. I said to you, for us, this is a long-term game. It's the game of the tortoise and the hare. We're going slowly. We're not going for the 1000x's and the 2000x's. We're just slowly taking positions. I'm building up an amazing position in a couple of tokens, which I'll show you later in the show. All right, let's get into the real meat and potatoes of the show. We saw this move down from Bitcoin yesterday. I told you when we were on the show yesterday, I said to you, I really don't want Bitcoin to break below this trend line because it's almost like it's like a battle. Think about it like a battle. And then you've got like a fortress. You've got the first line of defense, and you've got the second line of defense, and you've got the third line of defense. So the first line of defense has now been breached. Like the first wall that we put up was breached, which is this trend line that we've had since the beginning of 2023. But it doesn't matter because we've got more walls, right? We've got a wall here on this 200-week moving average, which is the longest term trend that we've been looking on for Bitcoin, and that is at about 27,350. And even if that does break and they get through our second wall, I'm then looking at this wall over here, which is the previous low which was put in, and I want to make sure we're getting into a higher low. There is bad news though, and the bad news is that September generally isn't the best month for Bitcoin. So, I mean, if you look at the average September returns for Bitcoin, it doesn't look great. The average is a negative return. It's actually the only month where Bitcoin actually clocks a negative monthly return. So it's not, okay, we again have power cuts. I don't know, can they see me, James?
They can see you. Yeah,
okay.
see it's just lights.
Okay, so we're getting power cuts again. So September isn't a great month for Bitcoin. It just isn't a good month for Bitcoin. There we go. And you can see that yesterday, when the price actually went down below that 28,500 level or whatever it is, what happened was we started to get another cascade of liquidation. So people are started to get liquidated. Who are these people that are getting liquidated? Who are the people that are selling their Bitcoin into the market? I'll tell you who it is. It's actually two classes of investor. The first class of investor that's selling their Bitcoin into the market is the leveraged ape degen. These are people that have come into the market, taken leverage, are looking to make a quick buck, liquidated? Who are the other holders that are getting that were shaken out by such a small shake of the market? Well, the other people that were shaken out by such a small shake of the market were the short-term holders. So people who haven't been holding their Bitcoin for long periods of time, they were wrecked, okay? They are the ones that are letting go of their Bitcoin into this market. What you can see though, if you look here, is you can see that the long-term holders of Bitcoin, which currently make up 75% of the circulating supply of Bitcoin, those long-term holders are not selling regardless of what happens. And I want to show you the data on chain. So this is the data on chain. This is the short-term holders. Now, what you can see has happened with the short-term holders as the price has been moving sideways and slightly down. Look at what's happened here to the short-term holders. They're pretty much letting go of all their Bitcoin. That's the orange line over here. But remember that 75% of the supply of Bitcoin is actually held by the long-term holders. There it is. What happened to the long-term holders as this price started to drop? Well, let's have a look. There it is. These guys just keep accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. So what you've got now is you've got this tail of two sides. You've got the short-term holders and you've got the long-term holders. The short-term holders wrecked every time that there's a short price move. The long-term holders, who make up the majority of the Bitcoin supply, they are using these dips to buy. And that's what I said to you. The big question here is are these dips for buying, or is this a capitulation moment? Should you be selling your Bitcoin? Should we say that the run is finished? Should we look at the Wall Street cheat sheet, which is here, and say, oh, well, we've had this little spike over here and now we're going to go all the way down? Or should we say that we're actually, these are dips worth buying and that we're actually going to start going back up here? I also said to you that it feels to me like Bitcoin is starting to follow the traditional US markets. And you can see that the NASDAQ actually broke a structure a while back. And we're going to talk a little bit more with our guest about the structure and about what he thinks about the structure. But it does feel like Bitcoin is starting to follow the NASDAQ. And while the NASDAQ was going up, there was no correlation between Bitcoin and the NASDAQ. But now, as the NASDAQ is starting to come down, what do you see? You see all of a sudden that the correlation of Bitcoin against the NASDAQ is starting to go up. And that's exactly what I warned you about. I said, don't pay too much attention to the fact that Bitcoin is not correlated with the NASDAQ on the way up. The real test will come when Bitcoin needs to go down. And now we're in that real test. We're in that real test. And we can see exactly what's going on. Bitcoin is starting to be more correlated. Now, you know that we had Ben Cowan on the show not so long ago. And what he said, again, more power cuts. James, can we get the lights back on?
Battery's faulty, all I can just keep pushing the button.
Can't you just put it straight into the plug instead of the battery? Okay, so he says the SPX getting that seasonal correction in August and September of the pre-election year, just as it typically does. So he's saying every time that we have these pre-election years, that is when Bitcoin gets this correction and we start moving sideways over here. Can we not just plug the lights straight into the power instead of the battery? Okay, let's just plug the lights into the power straight away. Also, he points out, or I'm pointing out, that a lot of people are saying that the returns of the NASDAQ or the stock markets are now all a function of these 7 stocks: Meta, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Tesla, and Nvidia. So the naysayers are saying, look, all the returns of the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ have come from these 7 stocks. Now let's look at what's happened to these 7 stocks. So let's look at Apple, and we take Apple from its top point over here and we bring Apple all the way down to here. Apple's down 10% from its highs. Let's look at, for example, Meta. So where is Meta from its all-time high? So you've got, let's have a look here. Meta takes the all-time high to here, down 10% from its all-time high. So the next one that I want to look at is Nvidia, because Nvidia has been the one that has actually carried the stock market. And it is actually reporting results. I think the Nvidia results are actually a big event here. So Nvidia is down about 8% from its all-time high. And I think on the 23rd of August, Nvidia is reporting results. I think we need to watch for that, because if Bitcoin is starting to follow the NASDAQ, then we need to keep our fingers on the pulse and keep our fingers on the NASDAQ and see what's happening over there. Now, the question is, if Bitcoin is following the NASDAQ, is the NASDAQ actually going to bounce? Are these dips actually worth buying? And that's why I thought I'd bring Umar Ashraf onto our show today. I've been watching his content. His content is absolutely fantastic. It's a lot about the mindset of trading, and regardless of whether you're trading stock markets or crypto markets, you need to follow what he talks about in his mindset. So guys, if you can bring Umar into our studio, let's see if we can bring him in here. Umar, you with us, my friend?
What is going on, man? How are you?
Fantastic. Well, we keep having power cuts here in South Africa, so that's killing my buzz here. How's it going?
It's all good. I'm seeing even I saw some. I saw it cutting out a few times. It's going well. It's going well. It's end of the day, kind of 5:30 p.m. for me here in Dubai. So I know you guys are starting your morning. So for me, it's kind of ending now.
Yeah, no, we're about the same as you. So we're in South Africa. So we're 2 hours behind you. Umar, I know that I've been watching a lot of your content. I know you trade a lot. You trade the S&P a lot. You trade. I'm assuming that you trade some Bitcoin as well. Very keen to hear your thoughts and your thinking around the charts and where you think we are when it comes to the charts.
Sure. So I can break that down with you. I was listening to the beginning of this episode, and I do agree Bitcoin is following the S&P 500 a lot. It is following the overall stock market. So keeping an eye on what are the massive events or major events that are happening in the stock market will help people that trade crypto, right? So we do have some massive catalysts coming up next weekend, and we do have some massive catalysts coming up in September that are going to help us get direction on where the stock market will go. And that same direction we'll be able to get for cryptos as well, right? So I can start sharing my screen, and I think there's a 1 or 2 second delay, by the way.
Okay,
yeah,
so that doesn't matter. Show us your screen. Let's have a look at it. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, let me share your screen. Give me 1 second. Go guest plus host. Okay, that should share your screen when you're ready.
All right, my screen. Allow to share screen. All right, can you see my screen?
Can't see your screen, guys. Can we try and get Umar's screen here? I see just a black screen. I don't know what you guys are seeing.
Okay, just give us 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. They need 30 seconds to get our screen. Umar, just walk me through your trading. While they're getting your screen ready, just walk me through how you think about trading, what indicators you use, and stuff like that.
Sure. So I'm an intraday trader. So a lot of times I try to step away from the long-term noise because I care about intraday movements, right? So when I start looking at things from like a 1 year or 2 year point of view, it starts messing with my intraday trading, right? So I push that to the side and I look at what is the current sentiment of the market this week and this month, right? So I try to have a footprint aspect of what has happened in the past couple of weeks. And from the past couple of weeks, I try to go into now. Right. So every session I go into, I try to carry over the last few sessions to kind of dictate that. So when you look at the overall market now, and I'll show you in the charts, the past few weeks, the sentiment has went from extremely bullish to bearish.
Just
right?
refresh your chart. Just refresh your chart there. Just refresh your share screen and let's see if it comes through. Okay, now I've lost it.
All right. Let me see. Share screen.
Let's have a look if we can get you on here because I don't see a screen. 1 second. They're trying to get your screen to pop up. I don't think it's his side.
What about now? It's saying shared on mine.
It's saying shared on his side.
Yeah.
Hold on. They're going to try and refresh the room and we're going to try and get you on. If we don't get it right, I think I'll bring you back tomorrow because I want to try and get. I really want to see your screen. And when you're talking to a chartist, you really want to see a screen.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Let's try. Let's see if they can get it right. Let's see if the guys here can get it right. When we have these power cuts, it completely destroys everything. Everything just switches off, and then we have to start again, basically.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no worries.
And then he's also echoing a lot. I don't know if it's. Okay, let's see. This is the last thing we can do, and if not, we'll have to bring you back here. So let's try. There we go. Okay, just try and share your screen again.
All right, share. Let me try share window this time. All right.
No, it's not coming through. Umar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you back another day or tomorrow, another day when you can make it, and we can actually show the actual screen share because I think it's pointless talking to a chartist and not actually having the screen shares.
No worries. Yeah, I don't know why, because it's saying it's shared on my end when I hit share window or share screen. It's allowing share
We're also
window.
getting a terrible. I'm
Yeah,
also
I
getting a terrible echo. I'm getting a terrible echo. Umar, we'll bring you back, my friend. Sorry about that. Yeah, we'll have to bring Umar back here another time. Yeah, we'll have to get. Yeah, if you guys could just disconnect Umar here, and Josh, if you could just bring the view accounts back quickly. All right, let's talk about where we are in this market. So I did see two opinions about where we are in this market. The first opinion I saw about where we are in the market is when we had Benjamin Cowan here from Into the Cryptoverse, and he showed us this bull market support bands, and you can see that what's happened now is that the price of Bitcoin has actually hit these bull market support bands, and we ideally don't want the markets to break down below those bull market support bands. I saw two options. According to Ben, we're somewhere here, and we're going to get another opportunity to buy down here. According to another opinion, which I saw, he's saying there are 4 phases in the market, and he's saying that we are here. And now I want to actually compare the two. I want to compare whether we're here or whether we are here. That's what I want to be. That's what I want to look at. So let's listen to Ben's thesis quickly, and then we'll review that against the data that we have. Bad Q3, and then what happens going into the halving. So let's maybe just carry on the analysis. So we have a bad Q3 before the year before the halving. What happens going forward?
So normally we get one last scare before the halving, right? Like the way that I've seen the cycle normally work, right, is people go, they slowly go from altcoins to Bitcoin, right? And the Bitcoin dominance slowly goes up. A lot of people, of course, it takes a while for everyone to believe it, right? And I still think there's a lot of people out there that don't really believe that it's happening, even though it's pretty clear, I think, in my view, that it's happening. A lot of people finally throw in the towel on the altcoin market, and then they go to Bitcoin. But at some point, we reach a level where there's no longer sufficient liquidity in the altcoin market to sustain the price of Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin rolls over in Q3 of the pre-halving year. What we've historically seen is a secondary scare before the bull market that takes us to new highs, right?
So what Ben's saying is we're going to get a secondary scare, which takes us to there. So if you look at that, he's meaning something like that before we go up there. This opinion over here is saying, here, we are here. And if we are here in the cycle, what you should be doing now is you really should be accumulating good projects, obviously saving some cash, not over trading and staying alive to catch the move upwards. So those are the two differences in opinion. If we are going to move sideways, this could be quite a long period of time. And if I look at what people are talking about in the traditional markets, there are two factors that people are speaking about in the traditional markets. The first factor is China. So we've been speaking about China all week. We made a video about China. And the factor that people are talking about is not only the lack of investment in China, but also the lack of demand that's going to come from China. And that thesis or that theory continues every single day. So I keep seeing more and more stuff. And the question is, what is China going to do to combat that? Because as I said, I think there's 3 things that China can do. They can reduce interest rates. They can put money into their economy and or stimulate the economy in some other way. Or the third thing that they can do is let it collapse. I don't think China's going to collapse. So the question is, what are they going to do? And today, what they've done is they've actually started to pledge more support as domestic demand weakens. So they're going to support. That means stimulus. They're in the markets again. Yesterday, I showed you guys that the Chinese government was putting money into the market. You can see that over here. Today, you can see that they accumulated another they put another 168 billion yen, which is another yuan, which is another $23 billion into the market. So China is actively putting market money into the markets. Why? Because they need to stimulate demand. And I want to just show you how bad demand is in China. It came from a tweet from 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏. So if you look at this tweet from 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏, she refers to this company, it's called FANUC, and it shows consolidated orders by region. And what you can see in terms of orders from China is that China has used to order 62.4 in the previous quarter, and in the first quarter of 2023, they ordered 31.6, which is a 41% decline in orders from China, which just shows you that the amount of demand in China is really, really, really getting destroyed. There's also a liquidity crisis in the country. The asset managers are saying that there's a liquidity crisis in the country. So all in all, in China, it's not looking very good. And what China does now will affect where the markets go from this point. The second thing is people are looking at the US macro. And I'm hearing a lot of talk in the US macro, specifically around recession, whether there's going to be recession. And yesterday what happened was we got the Fed minutes. So remember, the Fed minutes are the meeting minutes from the Fed's previous meeting, which happened about 2 weeks ago or whenever it was. And you can see that in those minutes, a couple of things happen. The first thing is the staff say they see no recession in 2023. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, for us, it's probably a bad thing, because if the staff believe that the economy is strong, that means that they have the license to keep increasing rates. Now, they believe the economy, that there's going to be no recession. If you talk to the analysts are saying 14 analysts think the US will fall into recession, while 6 analysts think that the US will avoid a recession. So 14 analysts believe that the US will fall into recession, 6 believe that the US will avoid a recession. Crazy. Okay. Most officials still see inflation risks, potential need for higher rates. That's bad. And that's why the markets responded so badly yesterday. Why? Because the market is saying, look, we don't think that there are going to be any more interest rate increases. Rand says that there will be more interest rate increases. It's happening. The Fed ain't going to stop, okay? The Fed ain't going to stop increasing interest rates. So there are going to be more interest rate increases. Most officials see the need for higher rates. We spoke about that. Some officials see the commercial real estate valuation declines, hurting banks and insurers. Some officials see tighter bank credit conditions than expected. So this is a big thing, because what's happening now is the banks are tightening their belts. They're not lending anymore because they're expecting the markets to go down. And the effects of that tightening are only going to be felt in 6 months and 12 months, when all of a sudden you see that there's no new projects being developed, that companies aren't expanding, and a whole lot of other things like that. So that is what we need to watch out for in the US. The last thing that we need to watch out for in the US is the return of inflation. We saw the inflation numbers going up this time. Here it is. Inflation numbers went up a little bit, 3.2%. The inflation numbers went up. I actually did see this about inflation. So the government tells us that inflation is 3%, but the goods and services we buy daily are 10% up or higher. So car insurance up 17.8%, tax services up 14.4%, food up 14%, car repairs up 13%. This is what people are worried about. Because remember, if inflation starts to creep up again, then what happens? Well, then the Fed has to increase interest rates. And that is what is bringing down the markets at the moment. So the big question is now, do we buy this dip, or do we wait for total capitulation? And I think for me, the answer is very simple. Markets always have headwinds. When the market is up, the headwinds, when the markets are rallying, the headwinds sound less dangerous because we're all caught in the upward movement. When the markets go down, the bad news is exacerbated. So you'll see the mainstream media starting to report way more about the bad news. Why? Because it fits the narrative of the market going down. The entire time that I've been in markets, and I've been in markets since 1998, every single time that I've seen markets, the media is behind the narrative. They'll talk about bad news when the market is going down, and they'll talk about good news when the market is going up. And that is what's happening at the moment. So now you're going to see a whole lot of bad headlines and a whole lot of FUD. To me, that is the time when you should be buying. Now, is this the bottom? Is there going to be more of a correction? I don't know. Probably there will be some more of a correction. But I don't see a big crash or a big correction or the NASDQ going down to the lows. Nowhere near that. So as this market goes down, all I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be accumulating the good projects that I think are looking cheap. And there are a whole lot of good projects which I think are looking cheap, which I think we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. Before we do that, though, I want to talk about Bitcoin. And I want to talk about this big, bold prediction that my friend Tommy Lee made. And for those of you who missed the intro, let me quickly play you this thing so that you guys can hear it.
If the spot, only if the ETF gets approved.
Yeah, and
US,
a spot US, because
right.
a spot Bitcoin ETF is approved outside
right.
the US.
Okay, but if it's not approved, then are we just lingering around 29,000?
There's still upside counts because of the halving next year. So you'll have a drop in supply again. So the clearing price has to increase, but it won't be 6 figures.
I always like hearing your price targets because you are so fearless.
What's he saying? He's saying, look, if a Bitcoin ETF is approved, then he believes that the Bitcoin price can actually get to $150,000. Now, question is that realistic or is that not realistic? Is that garbage? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. Do you believe that a Bitcoin ETF will drive the price of Bitcoin to $150,000? I want to show you some maths, and you tell me based on this maths, what do you think could happen to the price? So I like data. And for me, I always look at what are the data points that I have already that could strengthen the case or for this kind of number. Because what I don't like is when people go out into the mainstream media and make these crazy predictions and don't have the data to actually to substantiate the data. And so that's why I actually tried to get Sean who made the prediction to come onto the show today, but he couldn't make it today. But I looked at some data and I said, okay, look, this is the data that I have. The first piece of data that I have is there is already an ETF in Canada. Okay, how much money is in that ETF? Because if you think about the market structure of the US and you compare the market structure of the US to the market structure of Canada, it's a very similar structure. It's a first world economy. It's relatively wealthy. It's not a third world country. It doesn't have third world country problems. It's quite a sophisticated market in terms of trading and in terms of systems. Canada is probably the best proxy that we've got as to how the US market will react when we get an ETF, right? And so I looked at the Canadian ETF, and there's $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. There's 26,515 Bitcoin in this ETF. So does that make 26,515 Bitcoin is $1 billion? No, it doesn't sound right. Okay, yeah, maybe it is. Okay, so they've got $1 billion under management of of Bitcoin. So think about this: Canada has $1 billion in their Bitcoin ETF. It is a completely legal traded ETF on the markets. Now you ask yourself a question: what percentage is that of the total money invested in ETFs in Canada? And so I have another data point here, and my other data point here is, let me see if I can find the data point. Here we go. So in 2022, the Canadian ETF industry reached $314 billion in assets and $35 billion in net inflow. So what we know is that Bitcoin makes up 1 billion divided by 314 billion, which means that Bitcoin is 0.3% of all the ETFs in Canada. Okay, now you got to ask yourself a question. If the US achieves the same result as Canada, and we say that if we launch an ETF, the US market will respond very similar to the Canadian market, and 0.3% of all the money in ETFs in the United States actually goes into Bitcoin, which is a very small number, it's 0.3%, what will the price of Bitcoin be? Well, the first thing you need to understand is you need to understand how big is the ETF market in the United States. So that's what I did. I went and looked at how big the ETF market is in the United States. I think it's here. Here we go. There's 2,000. Here we go. It's over here. The total ETF market in the United States is $6.4 trillion. $6.4 trillion. 0.3% of $6.4 trillion. $20 billion. That's the number. So now you say to yourself, okay, $20 billion would be in the Bitcoin ETF if the US exactly mimicked Canada. In other words, if the US was exactly the same behavior as Canada, then $20 billion would flow into the Bitcoin ETF. Now, I guess that you got to add some fat to that. And you got to say, okay, look, if BlackRock gets approved and BlackRock starts marketing it and starts marketing it aggressively, and that's one thing. If the US accept it, when the US accept it, the Bitcoin will be a more accepted worldwide instrument. Also, you probably got to say that there's more international money in the US than there is in Canada, right? So you got to add all those factors. So let's say that 0.5%, 0.6%, double the Canadian. Let's say 0.6% of all the money in ETFs will actually go to the Bitcoin ETF, which is not a lot. It's less than 1%. That means that 0.6% means that $40 billion will flow into the Bitcoin market, and that would drive the price of Bitcoin up. Now, what is $40 billion? How much is $40 billion in the big scheme of things when it comes to Bitcoin? So the data point that I have there is looking at Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor's got $8.3 billion worth of Bitcoin. So if you take that and you times it by 10, because it's $40 billion, what could that do to the price of Bitcoin? You can also see that if you look at some of the biggest wallets holding Bitcoin. So let's look at like this. Here's some of the biggest wallets. So MicroStrategy owns 4 billion. Marathon Holdings owns 374 million. Tesla owns 300 million. You can see that if we got the Bitcoin ETF approved and the Bitcoin ETF mimicked the Canadian performance and maybe a little bit more, and they started buying between 20 and $30 billion worth of Bitcoin, that would make a huge dent in the Bitcoin market. It would make them the biggest holders of Bitcoin by a long shot. In fact, it would make them 5 times bigger than MicroStrategy. Question is, could that get Bitcoin up to $100,000 or $150,000? That's the part that I don't know. I mean, I'd like to say it does, but I think that 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗓 is actually being a little bit optimistic. Let me know what you think in the comments. But I am showing you that we could create, if the one just mimicked the other, we could create $20 billion worth of demand for Bitcoin pretty much overnight, because you imagine that would happen pretty much overnight. And if we got $20 billion, we'd have the biggest holder of Bitcoin. In fact, would this be as big as a Satoshi wallet? Okay, no. So yes, it would. It would be bigger than would it be bigger than the Satoshi wallet? That sounds crazy. Oh no, sorry, that's the Binance Cold Wallet. Sorry, that's the Binance Cold Wallet. So it would have more money than the Binance Cold Wallet, the Bitfinex Cold Wallet. It would have a lot more money than these guys. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗓's $150,000 Bitcoin seems absurd, or whether you think that $20 billion worth of buying, if we get the ETF, would actually do it. Listen, if we get the ETF, the price is going to go up. There's no doubt about it, because $20 billion worth of a buyer definitely is going to send the price up. Should we talk some altcoins? Let's talk about altcoins. Now we have electricity, so I feel much better that we have electricity. I think the first thing we should talk about is Shibarium. So everyone saw these tweets today. After Shiba Inu launched their layer 2 chain yesterday. I'm sure we all saw the tweets. I kept one of the tweets for you, where it says, we fucked up, we can't recover the ETH bridge. There were rumors that there were $2 million worth of ETH in the ETH bridge in the Shibarium launch. Now, I've just read an article, or I got an article just before the show that said, "Good morning, Sheep Army. Everything is fine. There's no bridge issues. Anything you see of me saying that there is an issue is false. Your funds are safe. So what's happening? Insane traffic instantly. We've seen the Sheep Army bring down large exchanges, websites, and other things for the first time. Our decentralized team has felt the power of the Sheep Army in its full force. It's insane, really." And what he's saying is that there's just been a lot of transactions, and that these transactions got the bridge basically stuck. So as far as he says, there's no problem, and these ETH are not stuck in the bridge. I know that there've been rumors around that the Sheep Army failed, and that the Sheep launch failed, and that people started losing their money. But according to the dev, that's not the case. So just wanted to clear up the FUD that's out there in the market for the people that actually have FUD in the market. Also XRP. So Ripple hit back yesterday. Remember, the SEC wanted an interlocutory appeal. So what's an interlocutory appeal? The judge gave her ruling. The judge gave a ruling, and she said in the ruling, she said that she broke up XRP sales to institutions as securities and to retailers who are buying them on exchanges as non-securities. That's kind of what happened in the ruling. Now, what the SEC wanted to do was to appeal the case before the end of the case. So they wanted to appeal the case and say, it's called an interlocutory appeal. And what is an interlocutory appeal? It's when you say, look, I know the case is not over, but I want to argue the judgment. And the judges, and what Ripple is now saying is they oppose. There's no extraordinary circumstances here that would justify departing from the rule requiring all issues to all parties to be resolved before an appeal. They're saying, look, let's finish the case. You want to do an appeal back then, but let's not have any appeals now, because now's not we're not ready. We don't want to do an appeal. We don't want to let you do an appeal. So let's see what the judge actually says when this happens. All right, next thing I want to talk about is 𝗍. Remember, we spoke about the 𝗍 airdrop, and I think that airdrops are a great way to get communities incentivized to use your product. But I think what 𝗍 did blew up in their faces. And the reason why what Say did blew up in their faces is they've got a community of people who worked really hard to farm for airdrops. And guess what they got? They got, for lack of a better word, they got screwed. Because what happened was the airdrop was so tiny that some people got $14, some people got $2. This person here says token allocation 46 Say. 46 Say is $8. Is that right? 46 Say is, what's the price of Say? Let's have a look here. What is the price of Say right now? Okay. 17 cents. So this wallet here got 46 times 76 cents. It's like $2. That's pretty much what, or whatever, or $5. That's what this person got. So a lot of people are getting very, very angry and very frustrated with this, with Say. Some people I saw saying Say is actually the same as 𝗬𝗎. Remember, 𝗬𝗎 didn't actually do an airdrop. And so, yeah, I think it's important. I mean, there was a hashtag Say Scam, which was actually trending today. So I think it's important for protocols to understand that if you're going to get the community in and you're going to make the community farm for your airdrop and use your protocols, you better reward the communities accordingly. And if you don't, then what happens is you're going to get so much negative sentiment that it kills whatever positive sentiment is comes out of the actually doing the airdrop. And remember, airdrops are a big part of the token supply. So imagine you use a big part of the token supply as a marketing budget to attract people to your protocol, and then you mess the whole thing up. I mean, it's crazy. It's a wasted opportunity. I do also want to talk about something else here. It comes up around a tweet for Rollbit, but let's not talk about Rollbit because we've spoken about Rollbit a lot. I just want to show you something over here. There we go. Let's just see if we can open it. Okay, so this tweet is around, so the guy says, one of the metrics I look for in holding Rollbit is how platform utilization holds up in times of FUD or downward price action. It's a very, very, very important line or statement that he makes here. I'm not talking to you specifically around Rollbit, but you got to remember that price and fundamentals sometimes, and specifically in the down market, are completely disconnected. And so a lot of people mistake platform performance for price. And when they say price is going down, then they assume immediately that platform performance may be going down. And the two are completely disconnected. Why? Because price is about the sentiment in the outside market. And when the sentiment in the outside market is negative, when Bitcoin goes down, the price of everything will go down. But in this case, and also in the case of things like GMX and GNS, which is one of our sponsors, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second, remember that a move in price can actually be a good thing. So specifically on Rollbit, a move in price means more people trading derivatives and more fees earned on derivatives. And in this case, more derivatives income. Same thing with GMX, same thing with GNS, which is one of our sponsors. And in fact, speaking of a sponsor, this is probably a good time to show you guys that they are GNS, who, by the way, their stats are unbelievable. If you look at their stats are absolutely, absolutely unbelievable in terms of usage. But they're having a trading competition. I want to see if I can actually get this up here. It says I cannot log into this site, but maybe I can get you just a tweet about the competition. So here we go. It says, here we go. Are you ready for the top spot in G-Trade's 50K trading contest? The Trading Titans Showdown kicks off 9th of August on Arbitrum and Polygon. Let's walk through the details. There's a $50,000 showdown. The competition will run for 10 days, so you still have a few days. Arbitrum traders, 40K, while Polygon traders get 10K. Instead of a singular financial score, traders earn rewards at the end of each 24-hour period according to leaderboard position. So consistency is key. Okay, so there is a competition. Go and check it out. We'll leave a link for you guys below. Is there anything happening in the newsroom? Let's quickly look at the newsroom and see if anything's happening in the newsroom. Not much happening again. Let's quickly look at the price of Bitcoin and just see what's happening with the price of Bitcoin. Oh, Friday Banter tomorrow is a big one. It's about macro, it's about China and stuff like that. You guys, yeah, I've got Mark Yusko. We've got, 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗄 coming. Okay, amazing. So this is going to be a big China Friday Banter tomorrow. Also, I'm reminding you guys again, if you want to join our morning content call, go to Banter Bubbles, click on this button here called the newsroom, and you will see that in 17 hours, that's the time of our next call. Now you can add it to your calendar or you can join us. Only 500 people can join the call because that's the maximum limit that the system can handle. So if you want to be there, just make sure tomorrow you're there. It's at 3:15 a.m. EST. Sorry about the technical issues. We do have power cuts, and sometimes they do cause havoc for us. I'll see you guys again in a few minutes on Twitter Spaces. Otherwise, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, have fun and trade well, my friends.